Have you ever noticed small changes in someone you love? Maybe they've started forgetting simple things, like a conversation you had yesterday or where they left their keys. At first, it feels like nothing. But what if it's more than just being forgetful? Dementia doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It creeps in, quiet and unnoticed. It starts with subtle signs that most people brush off, thinking it's just normal aging. But what if those tiny clues are your chance to act early? In this video, we'll uncover 8 subtle signs of dementia that you absolutely shouldn't ignore. These aren't the glaring, obvious symptoms most people think of. They're the ones that slip through the cracks. Little behaviors that, if caught early, could make all the difference. Recognizing these signs can lead to a faster diagnosis, better care, and improved quality of life. Whether you're noticing these signs in someone you love or just want to stay informed, this is a conversation you can't afford to miss. Stay with us until the end, and we promise, you'll leave equipped with the knowledge to spot these signs before it's too late. Let's dive in and take that first step together. What is dementia? Dementia is not a single disease. It's an umbrella term used to describe a set of symptoms that affect memory, thinking, and the ability to perform everyday tasks. It's more than just forgetting things. It's a progressive condition that impacts how someone interacts with the world around them. For many people, dementia starts small. It doesn't burst onto the scene. It sneaks in. It might look like misplacing objects, struggling to find the right words, or getting confused in familiar situations. These changes can easily be dismissed as normal aging, but they're often the first signs of something bigger. One important thing to understand is that dementia affects people differently. No two cases are exactly alike. While memory loss is one of the most recognized symptoms, it's not always the first or most prominent. Some people might experience changes in judgment, mood, or even their ability to focus. The earlier dementia is detected, the better. Early diagnosis allows for proper medical care, planning, and support. It also gives families and caregivers time to adapt and prepare for the road ahead. Dementia doesn't have to be a mystery. By understanding what it is and what to watch for, you can take the first steps in helping yourself or someone you care about. So, let's dive deeper into the 8 subtle signs you should never overlook. Memory loss for recent details. We all forget things sometimes, a name that slips our mind or where we left our phone. But when these lapses in memory become a regular pattern, it's worth paying attention. Memory loss is one of the most common early signs of dementia, particularly when it involves recent events or newly learned information. Imagine this: a loved one repeatedly asks the same question, even though you just answered it. Or perhaps they forget about an important conversation you had earlier in the day. These aren't isolated incidents, they're part of a bigger picture. Memory issues tied to dementia often focus on recent details, while older memories, like childhood events, might remain intact for years. It's easy to dismiss these moments as forgetfulness or being distracted, but there's a key difference: frequency and consistency. When forgetting becomes the norm rather than the exception, it's time to take a closer look. Memory is a cornerstone of how we connect with the world. When it starts to fade, it's not just inconvenient, it's a signal that something deeper could be happening. Let's continue to explore the next subtle sign, which goes beyond memory and impacts daily problem solving. Difficulty planning or solving simple problems. Life is full of small challenges, from following a recipe to paying bills on time. For most of us, these tasks require focus but are manageable. However, for someone showing early signs of dementia, even simple problem solving can feel overwhelming. Imagine this: a loved one who used to balance the household budget now struggles to keep track of monthly expenses. Or someone who's always been a great cook suddenly can't follow the steps of a familiar recipe. These aren't just slip-ups. They're signs that the brain is struggling to process information the way it used to. One of the key changes seen in dementia is a reduced ability to plan and organize. Tasks that involve multiple steps become confusing or impossible. They might abandon the task halfway or repeatedly ask for clarification, even if it's something they've done countless times before. These challenges can lead to frustration, both for the person experiencing them and for those around them. But frustration shouldn't turn into dismissal. Recognizing this as a potential warning sign allows for intervention and support early on. Next, we'll dive into a sign that moves beyond tasks and starts to blur the lines of time and space. Confusion about time or place. Time and space are constants we navigate every day, often without even thinking. But for someone showing early signs of dementia, these anchors can start to feel unsteady. Confusion about time or place is another subtle sign that something isn't quite right. Picture this. Someone wakes up in the middle of the night, convinced it's morning. Or they get lost while driving to a location they've visited dozens of times. These moments aren't just fleeting. They can be deeply disorienting and even frightening for the person experiencing them. People with early dementia may forget dates, struggle to understand how much time has passed, or feel unsure about where they are, even in familiar surroundings. They might show up to an event on the wrong day or repeatedly ask, "Where am I supposed to be right now?" This confusion can make it harder to stick to schedules or routines, leaving them feeling disconnected and vulnerable. It's a subtle shift that many attribute to simple forgetfulness, but it could be a red flag for something more significant. Let's move forward to another sign, one that challenges the very way they connect with others through words. Trouble with communication. Language is one of the most fundamental ways we connect with others, but for someone in the early stages of dementia, communication can become a challenge. This isn't about occasional tip-of-the-tongue moments. It's about struggling to find the right words consistently or repeating the same phrases over and over. Imagine this. A loved one pauses mid-sentence, searching for a word they've used countless times before. Or they substitute a common word with something unrelated, like calling a watch, a hand clock. These lapses may seem small at first, but over time they can create noticeable gaps in conversation. Writing can also become difficult. A person might have trouble organizing their thoughts in an email or keeping track of what they've already said. These struggles can lead to frustration and withdrawal from social situations, as they may feel embarrassed or misunderstood. Communication challenges don't just disrupt conversation, they erode confidence and strain relationships. It's a subtle but impactful sign that the brain is having trouble processing and expressing thoughts. Next, we'll explore a sign that shifts from cognitive struggles to emotional changes, showing how dementia affects not just the mind but the heart as well. Changes in mood or personality. Dementia doesn't just alter memory or thinking, it can also reshape someone's mood and personality. These changes are often subtle at first, but can become more pronounced over time, offering key clues that something deeper is happening. A person who was once outgoing and cheerful may become irritable or withdrawn. Someone who is calm and collected might suddenly seem anxious or overly suspicious. These shifts in mood aren't always tied to a specific event. They can appear out of the blue and persist without explanation. Imagine a loved one becoming unusually upset in situations that never bothered them before, or showing apathy toward activities they once loved. They might resist social interactions, retreating into isolation. These emotional changes can feel like they're pulling away, but it's not intentional. It's the result of the brain struggling to process emotions the way it used to. These shifts often go unnoticed because they're mistaken for stress, fatigue, or even depression. But when paired with other subtle signs, they can paint a clearer picture of what's going on. In the next section, we'll look at how these changes can extend even further, affecting relationships and leading to social withdrawal. Difficulty with spatial awareness. Spatial awareness is something most of us take for granted. Whether it's walking up a staircase, parking a car, or reaching for an object, these tasks rely on the brain's ability to judge distances and understand spatial relationships. However, for someone in the early stages of dementia, these once simple actions can become unexpectedly challenging. Imagine a loved one struggling to navigate through doorways or misjudging the distance when setting a glass on the table, causing it to tip over. They may find themselves bumping into furniture or having trouble reading maps or following directions, even in familiar places. These difficulties often extend to visual perception, making activities like driving especially dangerous. Misjudging the distance between vehicles or failing to recognize road signs can pose significant risks. Unfortunately, these issues are often dismissed as clumsiness or aging, when they may actually signal underlying cognitive decline. Recognizing these challenges early can prevent accidents and provide an opportunity to intervene before the condition progresses further. It's another small but crucial piece of the puzzle that reveals how dementia affects the brain. Next, we'll look at a sign that impacts a person's ability to make decisions, showing how dementia can interfere with daily choices in unexpected ways. Poor decision-making. Decision-making is an essential part of daily life, from managing finances to making simple choices like what to eat for dinner. But for someone experiencing early dementia, the ability to make sound decisions or exercise good judgment can gradually erode. Imagine this. A loved one who was once financially responsible starts giving away large sums of money to telemarketers or falling for obvious scams. Or they might dress inappropriately for the weather, wearing a heavy coat on a hot summer day or shorts during a cold winter morning. These lapses aren't just occasional mistakes. They reflect deeper cognitive struggles. The brain's ability to weigh options, consider consequences, and process information is compromised, leading to choices that seem out of character. Poor judgment can also show up in social interactions, such as trusting strangers too easily or failing to recognize unsafe situations. For families and caregivers, these behaviors can be frustrating and perplexing, but rather than attributing them to carelessness or stubbornness, it's important to see them as a potential warning sign of dementia. Next, we'll explore another subtle but impactful change: how difficulty completing familiar tasks can signal the onset of cognitive decline. Struggling to complete familiar tasks. Everyday routines often feel effortless, they're second nature. But for someone in the early stages of dementia, even familiar tasks can become confusing and difficult. This is more than just occasional forgetfulness. It's a deeper disruption in the ability to follow steps or remember how to do things they've done countless times before. Imagine this. Someone who has always enjoyed cooking suddenly forgets how to prepare a simple dish they've made for years. Or perhaps they struggle to operate the washing machine, not remembering which buttons to press, despite having used it regularly. Tasks like setting the table, managing a shopping list, or even turning on the TV can start to feel overwhelming. This difficulty often stems from the brain's reduced ability to sequence actions or recall the steps involved in completing a task. What was once automatic now requires intense focus, and even then, the outcome may be incomplete or incorrect. For those around them, it's easy to mistake these struggles for carelessness or a lack of attention. However, they're often an early and significant sign of cognitive decline. Next, we'll bring all these subtle signs together with an empowering conclusion, emphasizing the importance of recognizing and addressing these changes early. Conclusion. Recognizing the early signs of dementia is not just about observation. It's about empowering ourselves and our loved ones to take action when it matters most. These subtle changes, from memory lapses to difficulty with familiar tasks, may seem small at first, but together they tell a much bigger story. Each of the signs we've discussed, memory loss, confusion with time and place, communication struggles, mood changes, poor judgment, and more, are like puzzle pieces. Individually, they might seem insignificant, but when viewed collectively, they reveal a pattern that shouldn't be ignored. Early detection of dementia allows for timely intervention, better management of the condition, and the ability to plan for the future. It also helps provide clarity and reassurance to those experiencing these symptoms, letting them know they are not alone in this journey. If you've recognized any of these signs in yourself or someone you care about, don't wait. Reach out to a healthcare professional for guidance. Remember, the earlier dementia is addressed, the greater the chance of improving quality of life and maintaining independence for as long as possible. Dementia is not the end. It's a call to act, to connect, and to support. By staying informed and attentive, you can make a lasting difference for those navigating this challenging condition. Let knowledge and understanding be your guide to creating a more compassionate and supportive future.